So, hello YouTube. Today I'm going to be working on this is a 2004 EX250, Kawasaki EX250, also known as a Ninja 250. I wouldn't call it a Ninja 250 because when I think of a Ninja, I think of a 636 or higher, or 600 or something. I don't think of a... But anyway, this needs a carburetor overhaul. I didn't troubleshoot it to see if that's what it needed. The guy brought it to me and wanted the carburetors cleaned, so I'm not going through the troubleshooting process to find if you have carburetors. If you're looking at this for an instructional video and you want to clean your carburetors, this is a very hard bike to clean carburetors on. It's one of the hardest ones I've worked on. Actually, the second hardest one I've worked on. The hardest one was Virago. You've got to lower the engine to pull the carburetors off. But anyway, so in this video I'm going to go over how to pull the carburetors out of this. The first time I pulled them out, you see this airbox that's beneath the gas tank? It's hard to get out. You can pull the cover off after you take this gas tank bracket off, and you can change out the air filter, but the actual airbox itself, from what I was just looking at it before I started recording this video, it looks like I have to take off this whole undertail and slide it back. So slide the whole airbox back. But I'm going to take all of this off, all these electronics. This whole undertail is coming off, so all of these bolts. If you're not good at taking things apart, then I would suggest at least taking pictures of how it is before, so when you put everything back together, you have a good idea of how it goes back together, because you can go back and look at your pictures. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this apart, take this airbox, loosen it, and slip it back. Because if you see the carburetors, this is the side draft style carburetors, which is why they're so hard to pull out. Other carburetors sit on top of the engine, which are called, I think, downdraft or top draft or something like that. But I just call them the normal kind because these are the only ones that are abnormal. But anyway, so this airbox is seriously in the way. You can't pull it up because it's squeezed between the frame. So the best thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this whole undertail off, and if I can't pull this out completely, I'm just going to shift it back far enough to where I can get the carburetors off. So actually getting them off isn't going to be that hard once this airbox is out of the way. But I didn't want to do this, but I named a price for the guy and he agreed. So I'm happy with the price, but I'm not happy with the work. To take the tail light off, see, I've already got it loose. If you look inside, there's a nut there, a nut there. If you look down at the bottom of this bracket, there's the bottom of a bolt there and there, which you actually get to on the underside, which is these guys. Okay. Also, to take this tail off, you have these metal latches. You lift them up, and you have screws. It's like a P3 Phillips. P2 would work, but I would get a P3. And it looks like that's all that's holding that in, and you take this off. Okay, and I've loosened all of the bolts that hold in this, the undertail. Okay, so I have them all laying around. These guys sit on top of this fairing, so it should all come off. It does. When I disconnect these wires, they go to his turn signals. I don't want to have to figure out which turn signal is which and spend time wiring that in. I have to take these two 10mm ones off, so I can get this out of the way. Okay, I found two more bolts, little 10mm ones. They're actually under here. If you look straight down, the very, very bottom where that, you can't even see it, where it kind of tucks in again. It looks like it stops, but it doesn't. It goes back. And there's two 10mm bolts that bolt into the shock mount. And don't lose your springs. These clip in here, and they go around your lock. They pull your lock back, your seat latch. Okay. And there was also one that was mounting in the reservoir. fluid reservoir. So I got that out, and there were two at the base of the battery tray. You take out this thing that the battery sits in, and they're beneath that. They're kind of hidden. Okay. So I took this bolt off of the reservoir. I thought it went in through the airbox, but it doesn't. So that's just hanging right there. I didn't disconnect any tubes. I don't want it to leak out the fluid. I want the fluid to stay. And after that was out, there's a little, this, you don't have to take it off, the igniter and the bracket that holds it in. You just have to pull it back a little bit while you pull back on the airbox, and you shift the airbox back far enough to where you push these little rubber, don't take these springs off. Leave those springs on. There's little springs around the rubber boots coming off of the airbox going onto the carburetors. Just whatever you do, just leave those on. I've lost them before, and you're gonna let a little bit of air seep in. And if you have a little bit more air seeping in through one carburetor and it's not going into the other, then you're gonna have a little bit of a problem. Just a little bit of a performance problem, especially on a 2-cylinder. So I've loosened these two. I don't even know what you call these, pipe straps, ties, whatever. I've loosened both of these. There's one on this side and there's one on the other side for the other carburetor. And now, since those are loose, you can just pull the carburetors off. Make sure your fuel is off. I have this one turned to the off position. Alright, before you take this off, before you take the fuel line off, and once you get the carburetors off, you'll be able to shift them around enough to get these off. Okay. And you'll be able to, just loosen that. Make sure you mark with a, you can mark with a permanent marker. Just mark on the base of the 10 millimeter that's holding it in, like the location. Just mark on the threads, like where it's cinched down, where it's locked in, because you might roll back on your throttle and it might not spring back like it's supposed to because there's too much tension on it. So keep that in mind. But that's how you get the carburetors off. I loosened that guy, the top, and I pushed the throttle cable adjuster in. Same thing, I did it on this, on the return line. Alright, now all you have to do is for that side, you pull the cable in, turn it, and you shift it out of the little notch it's supposed to go out of. Same thing for this side. Let's see if I can do it with one hand. I don't think I can. Yes, I can. Okay, and that's so that's. I've already taken the fuel line off. I'm just pulling down on the carburetors. There should be a vacuum line right there. Yeah, looks like a vacuum line. And I took one of the bolts out from where that bracket mounts on the top, so that so this fuel wouldn't, even though that's off. What do you call that? Gravity feed. This doesn't have a fuel pump. It's just got a gravity feed out of the tank. Okay, and this is fuel overflow. I'm not gonna take it off of the carburetors. I'm just gonna slip it out. Oh, choke. That's right. Actually, what I did, I pushed the choke all the way in manually without pulling the choke lever on the nut. I left that where it was. I pushed it up, and that gave me slack in the cable so that I could slip the cable out through where my middle finger is right now. Okay, and now with that out, so I'm just taking that off. And here we have the two carburetors for this. When you're carrying it around and you still have fuel in it, you don't want to turn it upside down because you don't want to get fuel on the diaphragm side. This black cap side is the diaphragm side on any bike. I've only seen black ones. I haven't seen any. That side's the float bowl side. That's where the fuel stays, and you can see it's dripping out right now because it wasn't drained out. So these have to be cleaned, and just by looking at them, they do need to be synced. My next video, I'm going to sync them by eye. I have a feeler gauge inside my house, so Basically, instead of using a manometer, which is a vacuum meter while the bike is running, you just adjust the two individual butterflies, and you just have them. You just pick a set spot and you have them open the same distance from each other. Because there's going to be a little sliver that they always have to stay open. That's so that a little bit of air comes in. Right. But, okay, so watch the next video if you want to learn how to clean these, because I'm going to go through that too. I'm going to clean up outside, make it where it looks a little bit neater out here.